Good morning, evening or afternoon MGTOW men. I hope this video finds you well. I will begin this MGTOW sermon with a poem that will cover what I will talk about. Oh, King Ahab, how could you dishonour God and yourself with the treacherous Jezebel? Where was thine honour when it was needed most? Selling yourself to a woman who only loves notes. A demonic host who attempted to escape judgment with her SMV boast. You should have accepted Naboth's earnest words instead of moping around about vineyard lost. What's worse, you let your wife deceive the elders of Jezreel instead of standing up and saying, I should not break Naboth and God's ancestral seal. You reap what you sow, and you reaped a Jezebel, whose beauty is alluring but whose soul is sold to the devil. When Naboth was unjustly accused for blasphemy and pummeled with stones to the ground relentlessly, where was thy honour, King Ahab, and why did it not speak? The truth is simple, you had none. You were controlled by your wife, who had only deceitful death in her veins and not life. Let this be a lesson to any man who sees a beautiful woman with eyes full of lust, only to find out that generations on, she caused everything he built to turn to rust. Thank you for listening to that poem, men. Now let us proceed on to the talk. Recently I have been very much inspired by another MGTOW YouTuber named Sunrise Hoodie. On his channel, Sunrise Hoodie has an ongoing series called Sunday Sermons. These are very insightful and enjoyable videos, which I would strongly urge any man to go and watch. Hoodie analyzes the varied interactions between men and women that are found in the Bible, and how they underpin the core founding principles of MGTOW. If you're listening to this, Sunrise Hoodie, I strongly commend you. You're doing God's work here on earth. Therefore, through listening to Hoodie's Sunday sermons, this inspired me to also analyze the Bible and how it relates to MGTOW. Now, with all that being said, the topic for today's video is beware of the Jezebel spirit. Even if you are not that familiar with biblical stories, I bet you are familiar or have at least heard of the name Jezebel. The name, in today's current sense, is usually attributed to a promiscuous woman or a woman with deceitful/manipulative tendencies. Maybe you've heard of the word in association with promiscuous black American women. This is where I first heard it from. But honestly, this word can be applied to any woman who possesses the characteristics. But did you know that Jezebel was actually a person from the Bible? According to 1 Kings, Jezebel was the daughter of King Ethbaal I, who was the king of the Sidonians, dating back to 9th century BC. She marries King Ahab, who was the current king of Israel at the time, and brings with her idolatrous culture. Jezebel worshipped Baal, who was a Canaanite god that the Sidonians worshipped, which now King Ahab, persuaded by Jezebel, adopted as his own god to worship instead of Yahweh. I'm going to unpack a story where the Bible shows us the evil nature of Jezebel and why men should steer clear from women like her. This story is in relation to a man named Naboth, which can be found in 1 Kings chapter 21, verses 1 to 16. The story goes as follows. Sometime later, there was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. It should also be said that Samaria was a city located in northern Israel at the time. Alright, moving on. Ahab said to Naboth, let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden, since it is close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or, if you prefer, I will pay you whatever it is worth. But Naboth replied, the Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors. So Ahab went home, sullen and angry because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my ancestors. He lay on his bed sulking and refused to eat. His wife Jezebel came in and asked him, "Why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat?" He answered her, "Because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, 'Sell me your vineyard, or if you prefer, I will give you another vineyard in its place.' But he said, 'I will not give you my vineyard.'" MGTOW men, notice how King Ahab doesn't tell his wife the reason why Naboth refused to give him the vineyard, which is very important in this scenario. He carefully omits that part to make himself feel/look better in front of his wife. That was his first act of dishonor. The story goes on. Jezebel, his wife, said, "Is this how you act as king over Israel? Get up and eat. Cheer up. I'll get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite." Let me pause again. It is at this precise moment that King Ahab could have chosen the honourable path and told his wife to not try and get him the vineyard. Why? Because Ahab already knows the reason as to why he can't have it in the first place. This is because the Lord forbid it. By omission of the full story, he has not only dishonoured himself but dishonoured God and deceived his wife. Also, notice how Queen Jezebel talks to her husband. Not very lovingly, is it? Before the story has even come to its conclusion, God is showing us the dangers of being a man of dishonour and marrying a woman who, as we will see, is just as bad and deceitful as the man. The story goes on. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, placed his seal on them, and sent them to the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city with him. In those letters she wrote, "Proclaim a day of fasting and give Naboth a prominent seat among the people. But put 2 scoundrels opposite him and get them to bring charges that he has cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death." So the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city did as Jezebel directed in the letters she had written to them. We find out that Naboth unjustly dies because of Jezebel's actions. Skipping forward to verse 15, as soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned to death, she said to Ahab, "Get up and take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, that he refused to sell you. He is no longer alive, but dead." When Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, he got up and went down to take possession of Naboth's vineyard. Wow, there is so much here to digest. Firstly, Jezebel is truly an evil woman with no empathy. She gives no second thought in regards to how her actions have caused an innocent man to be put to death. In essence, she is like Satan, a cunning deceiver. At no point, when writing the letter to the elders, did she stop to think, is what I'm doing right? And this is what we as MGTOW men are dealing with today in the 21st century. There are thousands of Jezebels out there who look beautiful on the outside, but whose soul is like that of a demon. You will tell them your problems, and instead of them setting you straight and leading you to the path of righteousness, they will plot on your behalf, leaving no stone unturned, and will deceive many. Notice how at the end of the story, Jezebel only states to Ahab that Naboth is dead, so that he can now go and claim the vineyard. She failed to utter how her deception led to this circumstance. She is truly an amoral woman, and Ahab is an immoral man for just taking a vineyard even though it was forbidden for him to take it. Like the saying goes, like attracts like. So what is God telling us about the nature of women through this story? He is telling us that looks can be very deceiving. Jezebel is depicted as being outwardly beautiful, but as we have seen, her heart is not beautiful. Therefore, be very careful of exceedingly beautiful women, as these women, oftentimes more than not, are the most dangerous to men. Also, a woman in any position of power is very dangerous to the average man. All she has to do is concoct some type of false accusation, and your entire livelihood, reputation, and respect can be instantly destroyed. Or, at the very worst, you can be put to death, like Naboth. What I believe that God is also telling us through this story is to be men of honour. If you are an honourable man, then it is much more likely that you will attract an honourable woman. Ahab was not an honourable man, therefore he received a woman who was just like himself. In addition, because of Ahab and Jezebel's wickedness, a prophetic curse was placed on Ahab's family line. Later on, in 2 Kings chapter 9, verses 30 to 37, Jezebel was about to be killed because of what she did to Naboth. To escape this fate, she makes herself look more pretty by covering her face up with makeup in order to make the men that are out to kill her not want to kill her. Guys, how many girls do you know that do this? Try to escape punishment for their bad deeds through seduction. It's usually a last resort, and these women often know it. Well, in the Bible it doesn't work, and Jezebel is killed for her devious actions by being thrown out of a window and splattering when her body hits the ground, her blood spattering against the palace walls. Damn, she hit the wall before she even hit the wall. To conclude, why should you run away from the Jezebelesque type woman? 1. She will bring dishonour into your life. 2. She will not treat you lovingly but with disrespect, and often. 3. She is incredibly manipulative and lacks any sort of empathy. 4. She goes against what God wants for you and will lead you down the same path. 5. She takes no responsibility for her actions. And finally 6. She will try to use her SMV in order to escape her bad behaviour. Thank you for listening, MGTOW men. I highly appreciate your time. And as always, thank you for lending your ears to the Journeyman's cares. Have a great day.